Welcome to Nonsense Season 4, Episode 37, a continuation of our big story from last week.
Are you okay?
Just wanted to try something a little different.
All right.
Welcome to Nonsense Season 4, Episode 37.
No, do it slow. No, do it slow again.
Okay. Welcome to Nonsense Season 4, Episode 37, a continuation of our big story from last week. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm CJ Little.
This is part 2 of Task Failed Successfully, the Science of Happy Accidents.
Apparently, the first accidents failed so well, we have to do a second part, which now we are going to feel like Tesla Autopilot. We fail so often.
We crash into things just randomly.
We crash into things, yeah.
The upside is no one has died from this show.
Well, sure, not yet.
Okay. The Accidental Revolutionaries. Come on, let's go.
Bound to happen. Think about somebody could black out from how hard they laugh.
Unlikely, but okay.
Unlikely. Very unlikely. More likely they're going to nod off. Yeah. I think that's more likely. I don't think anyone's going to die from blacking out from lack of oxygen due to laughter. I think it's more likely they're going to nod off.
Apparently, it's Ignore the Music Day. The path to discovery is rarely a straight line. More often, it's falling with style. Last time, we explored how a milkmaid's cowpox sparked the beginning of vaccines, how a melted chocolate bar birthed the microwave, and how a botched lab experiment on poultry unlocked the secret of inoculation through virus attenuation. We even looked skyward at the hiss of the universe that revealed the Big Bang. But the lab floor is still littered with brilliant mistakes. From life-saving hard tech born of a wrong-sized component to a useless plastic that's stuck to everything. The best science often happens when we're looking the other way. So let's dive back into the beautiful, messy reality of serendipitous science. We're taking turns on this, and I believe it is your turn.
It is my turn. This one has a little tiny medical application, but really is not medical.
Okay.
Harry Coover, 1942. Do you know the story?
No.
He was trying to make gun sights.
Ah, yes.
Plastic, clear plastic gun sights for Allied soldiers. And he ended up creating this absolute nightmare product because it stuck to every piece of laboratory equipment that it touched.
Sure.
And he hated handling it. He literally just abandoned this stuff because it was, quote, too sticky. And this was like, mid 40s, just stopped.
Anytime something is too sticky or not sticky enough,
yes,
you probably have an application.
You probably
have,
yes.
Eventually, we're going to find out that's for Post-it notes.
Exactly. This one's crazy glue. So he abandoned it. 9 years later, when he was now working at a different company, he was working at Kodak, he went back to it and figured out that what was happening was it was bonding to liquid. Anything that had any sort of liquid on it, which everything pretty much on the planet has a very light surface of moisture on it. So it would bond to everything. The product they called Eastman 910, Kodak Eastman 910.
Catchy name.
Yeah, right. Rolls right off the tongue. You and I and the rest of the planet know it as super glue.
Yeah.
Then this came out of gun sights. What I think is interesting is that it took him a long time to figure this out. When he rediscovered it, it's because a colleague had accidentally glued two incredibly expensive prisms together and they couldn't get them apart.
Well, sure.
So they knew this is just a bonding product.
I always thought super glue was from the space program because that's what they used to adhere the tiles to the shuttles, the heat reentry tiles.
As it turns out, it sounds like that came after, right? Because here we're talking about early 40s.
Quite a bit before, yeah.
Yeah. And this is also fascinating to me. During the Vietnam War, I don't exactly know how this happened, but field medics realized that super glue was an incredible tool for sealing open chest wounds and stopping internal bleeding.
Well, it's still used in emergency surgeries.
Which led to the FDA approving it.
Yeah.
So now, especially like I'm not a medical professional. I've never used it for any of these real surgical applications. But if you've got a slight split in your skin, you just super glue it shut. It's fantastic.
Or you don't. Maybe a doctor does.
Nah, I don't have that kind of time. I'm pretty good. I got a pretty steady hand. Interestingly, Coover, the gentleman I'm talking about here, he was awarded more than 460 patents and wrote something like 60 papers.
Wow.
I mean, this guy was a prolific inventor. And this goes back to the early days of physical inventions, right? In the 40s, when we were just cranking out stuff before the war and after the war. And it started from plastic gun sights.
That's wild.
Like he was just trying to find materials they could make plastic gun sights out of.
Sure.
And we got super glue.
Super useful.
Happy story. Okay, so now bring us back to something sad and scary.
Well, this is sad, but in a different way.
Oh,
history has sort of revised how we tell this story.
Oh, these are my favorites.
This was a chemist at Bayer Labs, Felix Hoffman, who was trying to create a less bitter, more digestible version of salicylic acid, which was a remedy for his father's arthritis. arthritis.
Okay.
So he synthesized acylic acid, and in doing so, he created something that was easier to swallow and significantly more effective and less irritating to the stomach, making a huge pharmaceutical breakthrough.
Is this aspirin?
This is aspirin.
Oh, wow. I just got that off the time period, really.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he was trying to make a digestive?
He was trying to make something to make it so that his father could take his arthritis medication.
Oh, interesting.
Which was Selective. And make it so that it wouldn't irritate his stomach as much. And in the process, found this thing that was great for headaches.
So then he dosed his dad and tried to give him a heart attack to see if it would help? Is that the unhappy part?
That's the way we tell the story.
Oh, no.
And that's the way the story has been told.
Oh, no. Oh, I fell for this trap. Okay.
Yeah.
How many little kids were involved? All right, let's go.
He actually had synthesized this years and years early in 1853. In 1859, he successfully synthesized a chemically pure and shelf-stable form of the same thing. And Bayer trademarked it as aspirin, with the name derived from acylic and Aspirin from the Spirulina ultimaria plant, whatever the hell you say, any of these things. The source of the acid.
The source of the acid. Okay.
Now, his supervisor was Arthur Erdegren.
Don't know Art.
Art is the one who directed him to do all these tests and to try doing all these things and to see what he could come up with. And yet we don't ever mention Eichengruen. Eichengruen, I think it's pronounced Eichengruen is the name. We don't ever mention, we don't hear Eichengruen in the story. Because in the 1930s, and because he was Jewish during the Nazi era, Bayer and other German companies systematically purged Jewish employees and minimized their contributions to protect the company's Aryan image.
Oh, wow. So he got pushed out of history.
There's a growing body of evidence that Eichengrun's contribution was far more significant than the traditional Bayer-approved version of history admits.
Well, why doesn't Bayer go back and fix this now?
Anyway, that's how aspirin came to be.
So who's taking aspirin anymore?
Sure. For decades, that was extremely useful.
I still think it is useful for if you are experiencing a heart attack. I still think it's the best short-term thing to do. I don't know.
And there are people whose doctors instruct them to take a baby aspirin as a prophylactic against heart issues.
That is fascinating to me. So
that's kind of a sad story, but also at the same time, we're sort of rediscovering the history now and hopefully correcting it.
Okay, I'm going to do a medical one now, but you're going more like vaccines and drugs. I've got a medical device. I could argue the medical device, like the one that sort of started it all. There's a lot of history to this. There's a lot of different folks that made building blocks, right? Everyone's kind of standing on their predecessor. I'm going to give credit to Wilson Greatbatch. This is the mid-50s, 1956.
Wilson
Greatbatch. He was trying to build a circuit to record the sounds of heart beating, right? The fast sort of heartbeat sounds.
A microphone, as it were.
Yeah. And as he was building this, is at least as the story goes, he was trying to pull out a resistor out of his little box of parts. Instead of pulling out a 10,000 ohm resistor, he accidentally pulled out a 1 mega ohm resistor.
By the way, they're color-coded. Look at them as you pull them out.
Yeah, but they're confusing. Lots of different colors. When he plugged it into his circuit, it didn't record. Instead, it pulsed for 1.8 milliseconds, stopped for 1 second, and then repeated. He already had this little circuit built. What he realized is that it was perfectly mimicking the rhythm of a human heart. So instead of recording a broken heart, he'd built a machine that could keep one alive. Now, there were pacemakers before this. However, they were inefficient. They didn't last very long. And what was interesting about this was because he was able to now drive it off of a very small battery, he had built one of the first viable pacemakers.
Modern day
pacemakers. By the way, he was built this in his garage. This guy was like a tinkerer.
Oops, I put the wrong resistor in it. Let's still put it in a human.
Yeah, exactly. He held more than 325 patents. He was a member of the National Inventors Hall of Fame. And this invention ultimately led to the development of the Medtronics company of Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
Like if you think of medical devices, and at least if you think of like the grandfather of medical devices, I think of Medtronics. I really can't think of one that's bigger or better, right?
They still make amazing stuff.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I still think they're the gold standard. So Medtronics came from Wilson Greatbatch, which came from him making the first pacemaker.
That's really cool.
And again, he was trying to record the sound of the heartbeat. Had he just said, oh, this thing's going click, 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 I'm going to just keep trying to record the sound, this would have just been swiped under the rug. Somebody would have figured it out, because you had folks in Sweden that had already figured out how to make pacemakers. They just weren't very durable. Their tactical implementation was not as novel as this, or at least not as effective as this, I should say. That's the pacemaker.
Hey, this will be fun. Let's give a human heart some shocks.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Okay.
I mean, and by the way, this is like, I think this is around around 50, maybe 100 years after we figured out that the heart worked on electricity. Like we didn't really know that muscles worked on it. So there wasn't a big sense of time between when we figured out that you could electrically stimulate muscles and then us actually doing it in the heart.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's the pacemaker. As I like to think of it, the wrong box of resistors got us here.
Exactly.
All right, what you got?
A Wisconsin farmer in the 1930s visited biochemist Carl Paul Link with a bizarre problem. His cattle were dying from internal hemorrhaging after eating spoiled sweet clover.
Okay.
Link investigated the feed and discovered a compound that acted as a potent anticoagulant.
Okay.
Would not allow the blood to thicken.
Okay.
And they used it. They actually figured out a good use for it.
Killing rats.
Killing rats. That's exactly.
Is that really it?
It's a rodenticide.
Oh, wow.
So they could give this thing to rats, and the rats would, of course, bleed out.
Yeah.
So it became warfarin.
It became warfarin.
It stood for Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation with the chemical suffix arin.
Oh, wow.
That's where you get the name warfarin.
I had no idea.
Which is a blood thinner that they were using to kill rats.
Wow.
And so it hits the market as a rat poison in 1948. And then Link realizes its potential as a medical anticoagulant.
Yes.
So despite fears that clinicians wouldn't want to use a rat poison on patients, well, understandable, warfarin was approved for human use in 1954 under the brand name Coumadin.
Oh, wow.
My dad took Coumadin for a zillion years. Tons of people have taken Coumadin.
Yes.
It took off in the minds of the rest of humanity in 1955 when it was used to treat President Dwight D. Eisenhower following his heart attack.
When you said anticoagulant, it's the only one that I know of. I did not know the history. I did not know the history
Rat
of the name.
poison.
Yeah. Which, by the way, my understanding is it is effectively illegal in California. I think other states as well.
As a rat poison.
But in California...
Coumadin is not illegal in California. It's used all the time.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. I think a non-prescribed use pretty much anywhere. I think they're worried about it getting into the food supply.
Yeah, sure.
I also, if I understand it correctly, you poison your rats with this. And then the problem is the things that eat the rats now have the warfarin. And now then so you just have this like
chain,
this upstream collection of death. And by the way,
circle of death.
Bleeding out sounds like a terrible way to die.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not sure that the neurotoxins that are legal are any better, but hopefully they're less transmittive between birds of prey and other predators.
How much of the elderly are on Coumadin? I mean, a huge percentage of old people use Coumadin to keep themselves alive.
Yeah, whenever I see Coumadin, I always think it's a spice. I'm always like, sure. I thought that was a spice.
It's one of the most widely prescribed blood thinners in the world for preventing strokes and complications from conditions like atrial fibrillation and pulmonary embolisms.
Wow, that's amazing. And from cattle eating spoiled food.
From cattle eating spoiled clover.
Spoiled clover.
Sweet clover.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was a happier one.
Yeah. There's no Nazis involved.
No, I always like one with no Nazis. Once you put Nazis in them,
that's a benefit like anything.
I don't know if you've noticed. I have zero Nazis in mine. I'm a Nazi free. Yeah. I know. It's I'm less fun than you. Okay, I've got one more. This is the one that I suspect people might already know. I think the ones before were a little more esoteric. I'm calling this one the exploding hot stove.
Okay.
So this is 1839. I'm not going to tell you the name of the person because it would be a giveaway. 1839. Yeah.
Paul Hindenburg.
Paul Hindenburg started with stoves and said, what if we put these in the air? What if we made these lighter?
What if we made them enormous and put them in the air?
Okay. By the way, I love you trying to work the Nazis back in here somehow. I love you just taking the dirigible angle. Look at you. No, sir. I'm not taking your bait. So, okay, I'm going to give this away to you very quickly. Here is the problem. In the summer, it's hot, and in the winter, it is cold. So, if you have natural rubber, in the summer, it would melt.
Yeah.
And in the winter, it would freeze and shatter.
Sure.
So, it's not a great product.
No, it's not a great product.
So, we were trying to figure out a way, this person's trying to figure out a way to make it more durable.
Sure.
And this person is Charles Goodyear. So, Charles Goodyear, 1839.
Yeah.
And he had been trying for years to figure out a way to make, he didn't really know what he was doing per se.
He was not alone. There were lots of people trying to figure this out.
I mean, we had many rubber companies all around the world, especially in the US, that were trying to figure this out. And nobody had gotten there. Through some sort of happy accident, at least as the story goes, he had some rubber that was mixed with some sulfur. It fell onto some roaring hot kitchen stove, and it vulcanized. It became the rubber that you and I know of today. It became stiff, elastic, stretchy, didn't respond to freezing temperatures.
Just chemically changed.
He ended up calling it vulcanized rubber.
Yeah.
So that was the birth of vulcanized rubber, was a complete and utter accident.
It was an accident that lots of people were trying to figure out.
But arguably lots of people trying to figure out. You think you would have gotten there faster. I mean, we're talking about decades people were working on this.
Yeah, sure.
What's interesting about Goodyear is he had a successful business beforehand that he had sort of family business that he had inherited / split off. But he was just obsessed with fixing this rubber problem. I mean, he went to multiple rubber companies, engaged with him, worked in various ways. Once he figured it out, of course, everybody came for their pound of flesh, right? They were grumpy. Maybe, they financed him or he stole the thing from them or whatever. Lots and lots of lawsuits. Goodyear himself ended up spending months in debtor's prisons.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know what a debtor's prison was, but he did several stays in debtor prisons. And we're going to do an episode on debtor's prisons because...
What year was this?
This is all early 1800s.
Okay.
Like early mid 1800s. He forced his family to live on charity for a while. I mean, they were literally like hunting frogs and eating frozen potatoes. I mean, they were desolate. And he had built up a decent business, but then just poured it all into trying to figure this rubber out. After he died, his son went through, like, he didn't have good track of his debts. Charles Goodyear didn't have good track of his debts. Charles Goodyear Jr. went through the sort of all of his father's ultimate debts and obligations, had something like $200,000 in debt, right? This is like mid 1800s.
Sure.
And he ended up making right on all of that. The company Goodyear was founded years later with his name. It actually wasn't founded by Charles Goodyear. One of the things I find the most fascinating about this was that his first patent for this was U.S. patent number 1090.
Wow.
Which I just find like, that is like cool. Origin story right there.
Yeah, sure.
And then later he ultimately received patent number 3633, which was the one for the vulcanized process that we came to know that was commercialized. Still, that is a low patent number. 3633 is pretty crazy. So vulcanized rubber came out of dripping rubber with sulfur on a stove. And that's how we got the tires, today, which transformed so many industries, right? Especially the automotive industry. You would not have had the automotive industry without vulcanized rubber.
Amazing.
Okay.
And then he traded away all of his rights to that vulcanized rubber discovery so that he could have a blimp because he liked to travel in a blimp.
He did. He preferred very slow travel from a mediocre height.
Sure.
That's what he preferred.
But he liked sporting events. He would go to a lot of sporting events and hover overhead.
And he had heard that the Germans really liked that way of travel too, is what he had heard. That is as dark as I can get, the vulcanized rubber. Please bring us home now with your fifth.
Joseph Priestley, 1772. You probably are already in front of what this is going to be. He would mix a lot of different types of gases with iron filings, and he was mixing nitric acid, and he was putting it through a water filter because otherwise the nitric acid would of course kill you. And he wanted to make all these different sorts of gases, and he was doing all sorts of experiments with it. And he made this thing he called nitrous air.
Oh, I know where we're going. Yeah. No.
He had no medical insight. He was a chemist, but his breakthrough work was about this debunked thing about this fire-like element called phlogiston, something like that was contained within combustible bubbles. He was trying to figure out how fire worked. And he had no idea what the psychological effects on humans of this gas would be. So he didn't experiment with inhaling the gas. He didn't record its intoxicating properties. Nitrous oxide is, of course, what I'm talking about.
Yes.
For 25 years, the discovery sat essentially as a chemical curiosity in his notebooks.
Did he call that same 9-year-old kid up? Be like, hey, after you get your lesion shot, come over here.
Close. A guy named Humphrey Davy, who worked at a pneumatic institution in Bristol in the late 1790s, took the gas seriously as a potential medicine and began experimenting on himself and friends, various poets and philosophers. And he was the one who coined the term laughing gas after documenting the euphoria, silliness, and hallucinations it induced in people.
Wow.
He had a suggestion in 1800 that the gas might be used with advantage during surgical operations. And the medical community completely ignored him for decades.
Wow.
Instead, the gas became a staple of traveling medicine shows and laughing gas parties for the upper class.
Oh, wow.
Where people paid to watch volunteers act in intoxicated, silly ways.
Wow. I mean, now you just get it for free.
In 1844, an American dentist, Horace Wells, attended a traveling show and saw one of the persons who was under the influence of the laughing gas actually injure his leg. And yet showed no signs of pain.
Oh, wow. Just kept on dancing.
So it occurred to Horace Wells, this could be something to be used in medicine. This could actually be a useful thing.
Sure.
So he did a big public demonstration of this. He traveled to Boston.
Horace
Wells did a live demo. He
did a live demo?
Someone's tooth in front of a bunch of skeptical doctors and students.
I'm sorry.
He didn't administer enough gas, so the timing was slightly off, and during the extraction, the patient groaned. While the patient later insisted that he hadn't felt pain, the audience, already biased against the dentist with the party gas, took the groan as proof the procedure was a sham. The crowd openly mocked him and called him a fraud, and his discovery was humbug. Wells left Boston the next day disgraced. The scientific community turned his back on him, and he returned to Hartford defeated.
I miss your inventions that have the Nazis in them. Those ones I found more enjoyable.
2 years later, Wells' former partner, William T.G. Morton, successfully demonstrated ether as anesthesia.
Oh,
yeah.
Sleepy time.
Morton, who along with others aggressively maneuvered to claim the title of the inventors of anesthesia, sidelined Wells, his partner. The ensuing legal and public battles over who deserved credit for anesthesia were bitter and exhausting. Seeking to solve his own pain and perhaps regain his lost standing, Wells began experimenting on himself with various substances, including ether and chloroform.
Oh, yeah. Here's where it gets good.
He quickly became addicted to chloroform.
Yeah.
In 1948, his mental state deteriorated further. In a drug-induced, deranged state, he threw sulfuric acid onto the clothing of 2 women in New York and was arrested. And while in prison, upon sobering up, he realized the depths to which he had fallen, was overwhelmed by shame. He committed suicide by inhaling chloroform to lose consciousness and then slicing his own femoral artery. What he didn't know, simultaneously, just before his death, medical societies in Paris were beginning to recognize his priority of the discovery of anesthesia. He died not knowing that history would eventually vindicate him as the man who first truly harnessed anesthesia for surgery, despite his failed demonstration and tragic end. Laughing gas.
Oh, well, that was a roller coaster.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I like that you saved that one for the end. First of all, amazing that thought to have the application.
Yeah.
I don't know what language or where Horace comes from as a name. I'm assuming it's something, I don't know, Kiltish, Scottish, something. But it must mean giant balls. Because
I'm sure of it.
How many dentists do live demos? And they're like, you know what? I'm going to give this to this guy. We're going to go book out the gardens.
We're going to extract a tooth.
I'm going to get Wrigley Field. I'm going to put this guy in a chair. I'm going to give him some gas, then yank a tooth out. And the guy's like, it feels fine.
At Harvard, in front of people who don't believe you to begin with.
This is like the truth is stranger than fiction. Like nobody would believe this bit on SNL, but apparently it's what happened.
That's how we got anesthesia.
I'm bummed, of course, that this guy, like drugs made him do a thing. He did the acid thing and then felt severe remorse and shame. By the way, he didn't just off himself. He offed himself with the numbing agent.
Sure.
He literally dog fooded his own product and was like, well, I'm pretty sure it works. F y'all for not knowing that it works, but here we go.
Turns out somebody else knew, but he didn't know that they knew.
I just want to go back to talking about how bad Teflon pans are.
You missed the Teflon episode.
I feel like was a happier time. Yes, now I miss the Teflon episode because this is way, way worse.
Nitrous oxide would be a perfect story if we could just somehow tie it into Nazis.
I'm sure. If anybody could, Jeffrey, it's you.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, yeah, for those of you who loved these 2 episodes on scientists completely tripping into brilliant ideas, then you need to check out, or in many cases, rediscover PBS's Nova.
So good.
Because, I mean, it's so good. I kind of forgot about it. I rediscovered with my kids.
Yeah.
They have this incredible archive of content focused on accidental discoveries, highlighting how milestones like X-rays, penicillin, even the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass on your phone were born from broken thermometers, left on furnaces, or just pure lab neglect.
Sure.
It's the ultimate comfort viewing for anyone who has ever made a massive mistake at work and secretly hoped it might turn into a Nobel Prize. Like, that's sort of how I think of it.
The odds are low, but sure.
It could happen. It's happened. Nova perfectly captures the chaotic reality that humanity's greatest technology leaps often happen simply because a researcher was too curious to throw a ruined experiment in the trash. And that, to me, is what makes it work.
Yeah.
I watch Nova often with my kids. It's smart, highly amusing, and definitive proof that sometimes the best scientific method is just having elite tier luck.
It's also definitive proof that one of the best apps on my phone is the PBS app.
Oh, PBS is so great. Such great content.
It's so good.
Such great content. Anyway, that's Nova. Check it out on PBS. You can get it on the app. You can get it over the top. You can find it pretty much everywhere.
Absolutely.
It's really awesome content. How about you?
1951's The Man in the White Suit. Obsessed chemist Sidney Stratton just wanted to fix a centrifuge, but a bubbling lab mishap accidentally births a miracle, a fabric that never wears out and never stains. Alec Guinness plays the wide-eyed visionary whose unintended breakthrough turns his world upside down. Instead of a Nobel Prize, the indestructible textile sparks a cutthroat corporate war. With Joan Greenwood as a sharp-tongued moral compass, the discovery triggers a total system panic. Industry titans and desperate unions unite to crush the invention before it ruins them. It's a razor-sharp satire of human stagnation, proving that when you accidentally invent the perfect future, the status quo will stop at nothing to bury you, your lab, and your dreams of progress forever. The Man in the White Suit, so good. Available on most major streaming services now.
I've never even heard about this movie.
It's delightful.
And it's a satire? It's not about like polyester?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I was hoping it was about polyester.
Not even close.
He was like, I invented polyester. And everybody just loses their minds.
Alec Guinness he's not really underrated because of the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
But his earlier, funnier work is really underrated. He's such a talent.
Is this movie Is it a chuckle film?
Oh yeah, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna be quite amused by it. It's good.
Well, that'll be a nice change of pace from this show.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. A truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm CJ Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
14 years after creating Linux, Linus Torvalds did it again. Frustrated with existing solutions to manage the massive Linux codebase, Torvalds decided to write his own version control tool. He wanted something fast, distributed, and secure. He built the initial prototype of Git in just about 2 weeks, actually in about 10 days. Why did he do it? Well, BitKeeper, the proprietary system they were using at the time, yanked their free license, supposedly because someone on the Linux team tried to reverse engineer one of their protocols. When BitKeeper did this, they accidentally created Git, which would ultimately be the demise of their business. Today, Git is the undisputed global standard for source code management, and it was kind of a happy accident.
I just wonder what he used to source control the initial source code for Git. I like to think he just copied multiple folders. He just like Rev 1, Rev 2, Rev 3.
Get a thumb drive.
Get a little thumb drive. It was the OG Git thumb drive.
Sure.
We won't be here next week, but after that, join us every Tuesday and Thursday morning for more nonsense.
So we're not here next week. What are you up to?
Anniversary trip.
You and your wife, it's your anniversary.
It's our 10-year anniversary, and I said to my wife, I was like, wow, I don't think anybody had the over on 10 years. And nothing, not a smirk.
No response, sure.
No response. And then I was like, man, I don't think anybody had the over on 1 year. Nothing, no smirk. She looks at me and she goes,
sure.
Well, I sure didn't. And I just started laughing.
10 years is the gift of ignoring you.